Good afternoon, good morning. What is it? What time zone are we in? Hey guys, welcome to the show. It is a great day to be here on Mary Grace TV. I'm Mary Grace, and we are very excited to bring you this show with me and my friend Dave Hayes. If you've been paying attention, you must have seen that today's show is entitled "Conspiracy of Truth," Episode 16, Survivor Edition. And there's a couple of reasons for that, and we'll go into that during the show. But I wanted to just give our usual disclaimer, which is that Dave and I are friends. Dave and I like to have conversations on a live stream about things that are happening in the world, geopolitically, culturally, spiritually, all kinds of things. And we go down a lot of trails that are not pre scripted. We're not going off a script. We don't have anybody telling us what to say. It's not an interview, it's a conversation. And so I do hope that you'll stick around. I hope that you will tag people and let them know that we are live today. We do this about once a month, and you can go back and watch some prior shows. One thing I want to tell you is that we have had a lot of questions lately about Q and QAnon. Dave and I did a whole show about that, and that was episode 12. So if you go through my Rumble channel and look for Conspiracy of Truth, episode 12, you can spend 2 hours finding out pretty much everything you might want to know about Q and QAnon and the Chans and Q plus and what it did and why it matters and why it still matters and all of that, because I pretty much grilled Dave because he's written books about it. So that's one thing I wanted to ask you. We do get questions all the time about it. As you're coming in, please share, tag others, hit the thumbs up, especially on Rumble, on Facebook. When you're on Rumble, go and look for the video screen, hit the little thumbs up. That helps us in the algorithm. Give us a chat in the live stream. Also, come back on replay when you leave a comment on replay. That helps bump us up in the algorithm. All of that activity, all of that conversation, especially when you come back afterwards on the replay, it really helps us. Also, if you're still missing the notifications, it might be because you're not on my mailing list. And you can remedy that by going to marygracemedia.com and signing up for the email list. That way, you will get notified when we go live or before we go live. In fact, I'm about to send out an email as soon as Dave starts talking. And the other thing is, get on that email list because you don't want to miss, just in case the big tech giants decide that Mary Grace can no longer be on a certain platform. You will get the news from my email, from a newsletter telling you where I actually am. Okay, that's it for now. We're going to go right into the content. Dave, how you doing? Good to
Hey,
see you.
Mary, I'm doing great. How are you? Number one, thanks for having me back on the show for episode 16. Number three, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, hey, let's get to it.
Okay, I'm great. I'm super great. I'm a survivor. And you are too. We're still here. So I'm really good. It's hot as blazes here in Virginia, and it's supposed to be hot because you know why? It's summer. It's summertime.
It was 114 here yesterday.
Okay.
The humidity is like 60%. Our
Wow.
our monsoons came early, so it's a little
All right.
steamy here.
That's a little crazy. Yeah, it's we our humidity is actually not that high, but it is going to be pushing up, I think, over to the hundreds today. So and that's a little much for us. And it's the kind of, it's more like we're having July weather in June. And
Yep.
I really like it. I like the hot, dry weather. It's definitely better than like sticky September. But you have to be careful. One of my AC units, one of my what do you call it? Heat pumps is not really very happy right now. So we'll see what happens. Everybody pray for my, please pray for that heat pump, that it would do what I'm asking it to do. I'm not asking too much of it. It's just not quite, it's just not quite doing everything it needs to. Um, and so we need help with that. Okay. On Rumble, I wanted to say one thing. We do have a moderator there, and also me running the channel. And so I do hope that people will mind their P's and Q's on Rumble. We really do want you to comment, but if you are, one of those accounts that is here to cause chaos, it's not gonna work. So, let's maybe go somewhere else. Um, Dave, there's so much going on right now with everything, and it's hard to know where to start. But I want to start. I want to talk a little bit about Trump, and I definitely had him in mind when I was thinking about calling this show the Survivor Edition. By the time we talk next, he probably will have been sentenced, and we had a special show where we talked about the conviction. Convicted felon, they got their talking point. And, there's people on the right that are pearl clutching about, I just can't vote for a convicted felon. If only you knew the people that you voted for, what they're really up to behind the scenes. You would never vote for those people again. Anyway, um, but I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what you foresee. I also want to talk about some of his antics lately, some of the comments he's made. He's had some people kind of twisted up about some issues. Why don't we start there and then we'll go into some other topics. I know you've got some things on your mind as well, but let's start with like some of the things Trump has thrown out about taxes. Um, Immigration. He's sort of testing the waters on policy issues that he's gonna wanna try to push in his administration. What do you think about where he's going with those things?
Yeah, well, you and I know, even though apparently not everyone is hip to this, but Trump does a lot of A/B testing. He's always done that. When he brings something up in a podcast interview at a rally, he's not necessarily telling the world, "Hey, when I get back in the White House, this is going to be my policy."
Yeah.
He's not doing that. Not in every case. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. If it's the first time he's brought up an issue, what he's doing is he's he's basically taking the temperature of the room. He's trying to find out how would we react to that? How would the world react to it? How does the swamp react to it? What are people's thoughts on it? He then has people who go on social media and they follow hashtags and they follow the conversations and say, "Hey, Trump, this one looks like it's not going over very well. People are not down with this." Or they'll look at the metrics and say, "This seems to be a really popular issue with a lot of people." And I'll give you an example from a rally that he did. I think it was about a year ago. It might have been a year and a half ago. He did a rally and he brought up the possibility of imposing death sentences for drug traffickers. And he literally said when he brought this up, "Are you ready for that? If you're ready for it, good. If not, well, we'll see what happens." He was literally telling people, "I'm thinking about the consequences of the opioid epidemic, the drug trafficking, how many people die from fentanyl overdose, from various drug overdoses, how the drug sales empower the cartels." And he's telling you and me and everyone listening, "Hey, I think that we should maybe change our policy on this. What do you guys think?"
Right,
Right.
right.
So for people to get spun up and angry and get on their Twitter spaces and their YouTube videos and say, "Trump's gonna kill people. He's gonna institute some kind of policy where he's gonna put, you know, my neighbor who happens to, smoke weed and he sells a little bit of weed on the side.
Yeah,
He's gonna give him the death sentence." Like, no, that's not what he said, not what he implied.
yeah,
And people just tend to get kind of hysterical
yeah,
about things where Trump is simply trying to take the temperature of the room. He's trying to figure out, like, what do people think about this? And
yeah.
sometimes he will literally say, "Hey guys, I'm kind of taking a poll. Like, do you guys like this, or are you
Yeah.
not down with this? So he's been doing that lately, as you noted, at some of the rallies, some of the town halls. I think he's going to be in. Is he in Detroit? No, he's in Philly today.
Oh, okay, that's right. Oh, it's gonna
Yeah,
be hot.
actually, we're competing with him. I think. I think he may be in Philly right now.
Is he
Speaking of,
on? Oh, sorry, Trump.
well,
Sorry.
Denise said you guys are going to be competing with Trump because he's going to be in Philly. But when he goes to these, whether it's the Bronx or wherever,
Mhm.
and he's talking to different audiences, and he's trying to figure out where are people at,
Yeah.
what are people interested in. When he brings up taxes, for example, right? So this last week he brought up the possibility of getting rid of the federal income tax
Yeah.
and replacing it with basically import tariffs, right? So you have all these people who are on social media throwing out their opinions, throwing out their objections. He can't do that. He doesn't have the authority to do that. Well, he's not actually proposing, first day one when I get in
Mhm.
office, I'm going to get rid of the
Yeah.
IRS. Although if he promised that, he would be elected in a 90% landslide. If Trump
Yeah.
literally started a campaign on abolishing the IRS and getting rid of federal income tax, nobody would have a chance against him. He would win. He
Yeah.
would win every state, even Hawaii, even California, probably. Um, I think it's hilarious how people are reacting. But the thing is this: what Trump is trying to do is, again, he's trying to get a gauge. Where is the country at? What are people interested in?
Mhm.
What are their issues? Uh, would would the public support a policy where
Mhm.
we maybe lower the income tax and then eventually progressively phase it out? And then,
Yeah.
you know, and and people say can't do it. Well, there is, um, let's see, back in the 1800s, back when America was great for the first time, there was no federal income tax. Federal income tax didn't become a thing until 1913
Yeah.
with the establishment of the Federal Reserve and the institution of federal income tax. Prior to that, the government was almost completely funded by import taxes and
Yes.
duties.
And for
We
people
used
who
to do
don't
it that
know about
way.
the Federal Reserve, there's a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island that explains the creation of the central bank and the Federal Reserve, so definitely check that out and read it. He's also talking about removing taxes on tips
Yes,
for
that was the first
yeah,
test. All
yeah.
right, he floated the idea. I don't forget who it was he was interviewing. And he was actually, I think, in a session with Republicans in the
Oh, yeah,
House
the GOP,
or the
that's right.
Senate.
Yeah.
I think he was meeting with members of the Republican members of the Senate, and he floated the idea of getting rid of the tax on tips.
Yeah.
And he let that leak out
Mhm.
because he wanted to take the temperature of the room and see,
Exactly.
hey, what do people think about this, and what do people think in Congress, on the Hill, in the swamp, and what do people think nationwide? Again, Trump's people, Scavino and his team, will go on social media, kind of scour the internet, take some metrics, see how people are reacting to it. Then he brought up the possibility of replacing the income tax with import tariffs.
Yeah.
And people say that can't be done. Well, I listened to Peter St. Ange, and if you don't follow St. Ange, he's a great follow.
Spell it.
Peter St. Ange, Stonge, St. Ange.
Okay.
He is a Austrian economist. He's actually a professor of economics, so he's not some dimwit who doesn't know anything. And he does about a little 3-minute video every morning early at like 6 o'clock in the
Mhm.
morning, where he does an update on what's happening in the world of economics. And he did an update on Trump's idea about getting rid of the federal income tax and replacing it with import tariffs. And St. Ange said he gets into the discussion about how that's actually how we used to do it back in the 1800s, prior to 1913, And right now, current economics, the way it is, we if we put in an import tariff on all the imported goods that we get from
Mhm.
China and other places, we would raise about $1.3 trillion.
Oh,
That is about a third of what we're bringing in. The federal government is bringing in income taxes right now. So we would, if we simply got rid of income taxes, we would have to slash government spending by about two-thirds. Right? I mean, that's roughly
yeah.
the numbers. And if you think about what Trump's surrogates have been saying, not Trump himself, but people close to Trump,
Mhm.
people who are probably going to be in his administration, what has Vivek Ramaswamy been saying? What has General Flynn been saying?
Cut
What,
yeah.
yeah, right? So Flynn
Cut
is
the
like,
fat.
well, we just need to get rid of the FBI and the DOJ,
Yeah.
maybe ATF too. And Ramaswamy went further. We should get rid of Homeland Security. We can get rid of the Department of Education. We can get rid of all of these federal bureaucracies that are
Yeah.
not in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
If
Yeah.
you got rid of all of those regulatory agencies, just outright gutted them, got rid of them, you could easily slash government spending by half. And then if you streamlined the process and took out the corruption of bidding, like in the Pentagon, where the Pentagon pays $1,000 for a hammer, and all the other insane price gouging that goes on
Yeah.
with government contracts, we could easily survive and have a very lean federal government just funded on import taxes. It'd be easy to do. The
The
question
way
is,
the way it's
what
designed.
does the path to doing that look like? How do
Mhm.
you get the swamp that lives on the pork barrel of government overreach,
Yeah.
excess, graft, and corruption? How do you get those people to say, well, yeah, we're going to give up all of this just
Yeah.
because,
To
just
step away.
because Trump wants to make America 1860 again?
We gotta get them away from the trough, right? Um,
Yes,
hey,
that's the problem.
I sent you a text. You retweet the link I just sent you? I think you retweeted the last show we did, so I think everybody's watching the last one.
On
Um,
Twitter,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I just
hang
pinned
on.
it. Yeah, I think you posted the one that I had pinned to my,
You
thing because
pin that crap to your freaking
I
Twitter timeline?
well, I just pinned today's show, but I can't pin it until it goes live, and you
All right. Oh,
reposted
you
the
know
one
what?
that
I'm wearing the wrong color shirt, so that is
you
definitely.
reposted the one that was live last time. So that's good, we'll get
Well,
some replays on that, but now this one is live. So, anyway, here, I've got a meme for everybody while we're doing this. So this is a really good meme. Okay, you guys can save this
why do
if
you
you
have to
want.
make this difficult?
I'm not. I'm just showing a meme. It's meme time. It's meme time. And if you're on Facebook or X, you can drop some funny memes in the chat if you want. We really like these. Somebody posted this on Facebook and I saved it. I just love this one. For those of you who are driving and listening, it has that Leonardo DiCaprio character holding the glass of sherry, and he says, "For just once, can't somebody just let Joe wander off?" Because you know how you're always wandering and they're trying to rein him in. So if you wanna grab that and screenshot it, go for it. I just thought it was really funny. So here we go. We're back.
We're
We
back.
should see a little uptick in the numbers now that you did that. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so if you listen to Trump's surrogates, people who are close to him, they're going to give you some inside baseball about the thinking in Trump's camp that Trump can't say
Mm.
himself. If Trump were to come out during the campaign and tell people we're going to get rid of the Department of Education, Homeland Security, FBI, ATF, DOJ, all these three-letter agencies, CIA, we're going to gut them all. It would be a bloodbath. Trump
Yeah.
cannot say that kind of stuff on the campaign trail.
Right.
But his big mouth surrogates sure as heck can talk about what they as a group are thinking.
Yeah, yeah, I
So,
like it. And, it's interesting too when he does this type of thing, um, his words and actions are reflective of years and years and years uh, of Trump. He's not really doing anything different. He's not saying anything
no,
new. I mean, when it comes to, for example, removing the taxes from tips, Trump owns hotels and restaurants. He understands how people who work for tips live. And he understands that, especially because he really knows his employees. And so he gets it. He gets what it's like to have your income cut by 30% when you're already working for a pretty low wage. And another indication we have of that is when he was talking during at the very beginning of the pandemic, and they were looking at how to compensate people who had been forced to stay home from work. He was the one who spoke up for the restaurant workers and the contract workers
yeah,
who wouldn't normally qualify for unemployment. If you got unemployment, pandemic unemployment during that time as a tip worker or a contract worker, thank Trump for that, okay? It was because of him that that was put into that program. It would not have been put in without him. And so he really does have a read on regular people who are just trying to make a living. And I think one of the talking points that we get a lot from the elitists who actually don't have an idea on how normal people live, they always project and they say that he's out of touch. He's really not. He really understands what people are dealing with and what they're going through. The other reason I think that he does this type of thing is that it always brings out the fair weather friends. It exposes people and makes them show their okole, show their true colors. The people that have risen to fame, who've ridden on the coattails of Trump's fame, who've made a ton of money. Okay, let's just call them grifters. Okay,
all
Con
right.
Inc., people like that, all the so-called conservative influencers that are so quick to throw him under the bus. And we've seen this
Oh yes, we
with
have.
okay, with this week with the immigration issue where he talked about putting the green cards on the diplomas. And and I just I don't know. I don't think he's gonna do that. I
If
think
you fall for if you fall for every piece of red meat that Trump throws out there, you're going to end up looking like a fool quite often.
right, right,
Um,
exactly, and I think that the other thing too that I would always say to people is, remember the 48-hour rule, or
yep,
maybe even 72 hours, because you just want to see where the chips lay.
yep.
Because sometimes Trump, he knows how to dominate the news cycle. He knows how to trend. He knows how to leverage his surrogates to get messages out.
He
And
is the troller in chief.
he's the troller in chief, and then he just sits back and watches. So if you're freaking out and running around and telling everybody the sky is falling, it's probably because you forgot the 48-hour rule.
Yeah,
So and then also just hold up and understand that he actually does listen. He wants to know what people are saying. That's why he does it. He doesn't hire these stupid polling companies because he doesn't trust them. Because people don't tell the truth to polling companies, but they will go on social media and talk about exactly how they feel. And that's why he does it. He wants to poll you directly about how you feel about things. And he listens. So anyway, I hope you guys are getting this, and we're not trying to patronize or talk down people. People are in different levels of understanding, and this is an area that Dave and I have seen time and time again. So we really want to just lay this out for you and help you understand it, because it's not going to stop. This is really a feature and not a bug when it comes to Trump.
right. Can I go back to
Yeah.
slimming down the government?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. I'm a big fan of that.
Okay, I think there is a path to doing this
Okay,
that I
let's
haven't
hear it.
heard anyone talking about, and it's related to a Supreme Court opinion that is about to drop. As Q would say, something big is about to drop. So everyone is waiting with bated breath for three Supreme Court opinions coming out. Most people are aware of two, but there's a third one that's very important.
Okay.
One of them is it's basically called 1512, and it's a U.S. code, and it has to do with the charges, the criminal charges that some of the J6 defendants are facing and have been convicted of,
Yeah.
which is interfering with a judicial proceeding. That case is called Fisher, and there's the Supreme Court is expected to rule on that by the end of the month. Possibly, we may see that ruling come out Thursday. It could come out next Friday. It could come out the week after, but that is going to have an impact on a lot of people, a lot of J6 defendants. In a sense, it's going to have an impact on them. In another sense, that impact is going to be blunted because the courts and the corrupt Department of Justice are already figuring out ways to shift the sentencing of people who have been convicted of or charged with that offense, and increasing the time on the other charges that they were charged with. So I don't know that anyone's going to get off scot-free
Mhm.
just if they've just been charged with that charge. If that's the only charge thing that they were charged with, if it was interfering with a judicial proceeding, the 1512 charge,
Mhm.
they may have that charge dropped and their case may go away.
Okay.
But if they've been charged with anything else, then they're probably going to just get a heavier sentence. Anyway,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
one of the things coming out from the Supreme Court. The other one is Supreme Court's going to drop an opinion on presidential immunity. That should be coming
Yes.
out either this week or the week after. And that is going to have the 1512, the Fisher case, is going to have an impact on Trump and his cases because the case in D.C. Is that case specifically has a 1512 charge against Trump.
Okay.
So if the Supreme Court rules that J6 defendants cannot be charged with that 1512 federal charge, then that'll go away for Trump. And then the other one is presidential immunity. And presidential immunity may wipe out the rest of that case in DC. So we'll have to see what comes of that. We don't know what the Supreme Court's going to rule. I think it's fairly a safe bet to say Supreme Court is going to rule that the president does have immunity from prosecution for official acts. It may bleed over a little bit into private acts, but we don't know. And this specifically is immunity for criminal prosecution. Immunity for civil prosecution was already covered years ago with Nixon case. So that opinion is going to come out. And there's a third opinion that's going to come out. And that opinion has to do with Chevron, the doctrine of Chevron deference. And this is the one no one's talking about. There are some people on Twitter talking about it. Thank you, James R. and his homies. The Chevron deference doctrine is the idea that it's a general concept that we trust experts in the field to make administrative decisions and rules by which we are going to submit ourselves and be governed by these people and these rules.
Okay.
All right. So it's deferring to authority figures, deferring to the experts. And we have here in America, unfortunately, we've been taken captive by a bureaucracy that relies heavily on Chevron deference. The reason why so many people were cowed into taking the vaccine, putting on the masks, quarantining themselves in their homes was that media was pushing and pushing and pushing, trust the experts. That's Chevron deference.
Okay.
It is deferring to the experts, letting the experts have their say, letting them make the rules, letting them make the guidelines. Even if they decide they have to change the definition of a vaccine during a pandemic, we're going to let the experts call the shots,
And
right?
this is unelected bureaucrats, basically.
Yes,
And just as a disclaimer, Dave is explaining a case that's before the Supreme Court of the United States. He is not
yes.
advocating for any position one way or
I'm
the
not.
other.
The
This is
Supreme Court is going to rule on the doctrine of Chevron deference.
okay,
It's being challenged. Oral arguments were presented on that case, I think, back in January or February.
okay,
And the Supreme Court's going to issue a ruling on that in either this week or the week after.
interesting.
Here's why it's important.
Yeah, tell us.
So, um, one of the things that Obama did during his administration was he appointed all of these czars
Right.
over all these different agencies. Pete Buttigieg is essentially a czar over transportation. Pete Buttigieg, these czars are given they call them czars because they're almost given carte blanche authority to make rules over their area of expertise, whether that is the healthcare industry or the tech industry
Okay.
or transportation, energy, whatever it is, whatever sector. Obama appointed all of these people and gave them authority. And one of the things that happened with the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms is ATF started making all of these rules about bump stocks and about barrel length and about magazine capacity and all these other things, none of which was legislated.
Right.
The ATF, as a government agency, simply decided, the chief of the agency decided, we're going to implement some policies to restrict the Second Amendment. And Chevron deference is the doctrine that allows those unelected bureaucrats to create rules that we have to live by.
Okay, this is really
This
big.
is huge. It's
Okay.
very important.
Do you think it's gonna have a trickle down effect to the states and localities,
Yes,
when
it's going to
people
give a lot of power back to the states.
okay, because one of the things that people like me were saying during the pandemic was, "This is not a law. Nobody passed this law.
It's
This
not a law. It's a
somebody."
guideline. It's a
Yeah, it's a
principle.
guideline, it's a,
It's not a law.
recommendation, all of
Correct.
this
It
stuff.
doesn't have the force of law.
The 3 letter agencies were dictating and pretty much ruining people's lives, and we saw that, with OSHA, we saw that with the health department.
Yep.
They were coming in and just making people's lives miserable, especially with small businesses. And I just hope that we can have some recourse, for people who were subjected to that level of tyranny at that.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, interesting.
remind me to come back, circle
Okay,
back
circle back.
to what is going to
Okay,
happen to Pfizer because of all that. But let me finish the Chevron deference thing.
okay,
So this is a huge issue, and like I said, there's not a lot of people talking about it. But the reason why the bureaucracies and federal agencies are able to do all of this oppressive, uh, um, basically oppressing our civil
tyranny,
liberties,
tyranny.
tyranny. They're oppressing our civil liberties because we have this doctrine called Chevron deference, where we generally allow uh, people with expertise who are in positions of authority to make rules that are not legislated. And we've let those agencies impose those rules that are not legislated upon the
Okay,
people. So if the Supreme Court does what I think they're going to do, they're going to overrule the Chevron deference doctrine and severely whack it to pieces. And that's if they do that, it's going to take away a lot of the authority that federal bureaucracies have, whether that's the Department of the Interior, Department of Energy, all the rules that they make about mining and energy exploration and forestry and everything else. The tangled up web of bureaucracy is about to get unraveled if the Supreme Court overrules this Chevron deference doctrine. I think it's going to have a huge effect on regulatory agencies and their ability to hamstring people
Okay.
and force people and build this, create this tyrannical system we live in. So if you take that
Mm-hmm.
potential change, and pair it with Trump's battle over presidential impoundment powers, which is coming, that's like taking nitro and glycerin and putting them together. You have something very powerful. So Trump has already said he will go to the Supreme Court if necessary to overturn the congressional law that was passed during the Nixon administration that stripped the president of the power of presidential impoundment. Now, what does that mean? Okay, let me explain it real quickly.
I'm getting an education here.
Yep. So prior to the Nixon administration and during the Nixon administration, the president had the right to basically impound money that was appropriated by Congress to be spent on various programs and agencies. Okay, so Congress, for example, could say, we're going to approve $2 trillion for the Defense Department budget next year. And Trump could say, you can approve $5 trillion if you want. I'm impounding all but 500 million of that money. And that's what's going to the Defense Department. And you guys can pound sand because you're not getting the rest of it. The Presidential Impoundment Authority gives the executive power over the executive branch, which is all federal agencies. The Department of Defense, Homeland Security, FBI, DOJ, Department of Interior, Department of Energy, they're all in the executive branch.
Okay.
And they're subject to executive oversight. And the Presidential Impoundment Authority gives the president ultimate say about how much money is going to be spent on executive branch agencies. So
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Is this different from when Kash Patel has talked on the show, and he's talks about it in his book about having Congress, I think it's called fencing the money?
No, it's not this. It's the same thing, but
Same
it's
idea?
opposite. It's the same
Okay.
idea.
Okay, keep going.
Congress has the power of the purse, right?
Yeah.
And Cash has been attacking this from the angle of, if we had a few good people in Congress, they would use the power of the purse, and they would basically take the money that is going to these corrupt agencies and say, you're not getting that money.
Okay.
Right.
Similar
This is the
idea.
same
Okay.
idea, but it's on the presidential side.
Right. Wow.
So what happened was during the Nixon administration, a deal was made between Congress and Nixon. If he resigned, they would not go through the full embarrassment of impeachment and conviction in the Senate. But one of the things they tied onto that was he had to sign off a bill that gave away presidential impoundment authority, took it away from the president.
Wow.
Congress passed a bill, the Senate passed it, and Nixon signed it before he resigned. And that took away the ability of the president to impound money that Congress had approved. Congress basically wanted all authority over expenditures, and Nixon gave it to them. Trump has said he's going to go to the Supreme Court and try to get that law overturned and get back the presidential impoundment authority, so that he can decide how much money is spent on all of the federal agencies, because he, as a president, is the head of the executive branch.
Mhm. Well, do you know if that will give him the power to revert the budget back to, running department by department as opposed to
Yes.
having
Um,
what do they call it? The
Trump told
omnibus?
Congress, Trump told members of the House when he signed their last omnibus bill, he was pissed off.
Yeah.
He was pissed off, and he shut down the government for more than a month. And there was a stalemate. McCarthy refused, and everyone in Congress refused to come up with an actual budget.
Mhm.
All they were willing to do was a continuing resolution, an omnibus bill, and they were trying to force Trump to sign it. He eventually signed it and said, "Do not ever bring me another omnibus bill. I will
Remember
never
that.
sign another one of them."
That was
So
when
Trump,
he
go ahead.
when that was when he brought in Chick-fil-A for the basketball team because
Okay, yeah,
the
2018.
yeah, 2018.
So, what if Trump gets back in the
Yeah,
White House? He is going to have a showdown with Congress
okay.
over this issue of them not submitting. Uh, uh, the House is supposed to break. The president is supposed to create a budget, and he's supposed to submit the budget to the House. The House then breaks it into appropriations bills and
Okay.
votes independently on appropriation bills for each department. And members of Congress can add additional riders onto the appropriations bills. But we stopped doing that. Mike Johnson said he was going to, and he started doing the individual appropriation process and then
I
gave up
remember
on
that.
it. He caved, and he sent another omnibus bill to Biden because he knew that Biden would sign it. So that's probably not going to happen under Trump.
Okay.
If Trump is able to challenge presidential impoundment at the Supreme Court level, get the Supreme Court to rule that the president does have the right to impound money appropriated by Congress, so Congress can appropriate all the money they want. The president has ultimate decision-making authority over how much of that money is going to be spent
Mhm.
in his branch of the government. Then Trump could literally tell his attorney general, "All right, well, here's the news. Congress appropriated $600 billion for the DOJ this year, but you're only going to get 50 million. Department of Energy. Here's the bad news.
Yeah.
Congress appropriated this amount of money, but you're only getting this tiny little bit. Department of Homeland Security, you're getting nothing. FBI, you're getting nothing. Uh, Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, you're
Nothing.
getting nothing. Trump could, if
Yeah.
Congress doesn't want to gut all of these bureaucratic agencies, Trump could simply defund them and
Yeah.
say, hey, you know
Yeah.
what? He could tell his department heads, fire all those people because your budget is being slashed by
Yeah.
90%. I hope like hell that Trump is actually in his little mind. He's thinking he's got Chevron deference coming,
Mhm.
which is going to, if the Supreme Court rules the way I think they're going to, it's going to take away the authority of bureaucratic agencies and agency heads. It's got that coming. He potentially has a Supreme Court battle coming over presidential impoundment. He's got people on his side like Vivek Ramaswamy and Flynn and other people who want to gut the federal bureaucracy.
Yeah.
If he can assemble a team of people who are willing to drive that agenda and support him, and if he gets some good people on his side, I think Trump can make massive changes in government.
It's interesting too because I think because he has so many, like, five-star properties, really he's known for opulence. I don't think people realize what a spendthrift he is. He's very thrifty.
Yeah,
And
he is.
he likes to save money, and he always talks about getting things done ahead of time and under budget, and when he was negotiating to get Air Force One, refurbished and rebuilt, he came in and completely nixed the deal
And
that
how many
had
times has he
been
told the story
negotiated.
about how he got Boeing to come down on the price?
That's right, and he's a wheeler dealer. I mean,
Yeah,
he and the whole, this, like, $1,000 toilet paper thing, that pisses him off. I mean,
it
he
does.
hates that kind of waste,
Yeah,
and one of the things too, I think when people say that as a builder, you hear the naysayers will say, "Well, he didn't pay his bills, he didn't pay his vendors," things like that. Typically, when you're a contractor or when you're running a business and you hire a contractor, there is going to be some contention at times over charges that they bring to you if a work wasn't finished up to spec or if it was late, things like that. And so a contractor could very well be disgruntled if they didn't meet their end of the contract and then Trump
right.
decided not to pay them or pay them less. So people don't usually have the whole story when they say things like that about him. Any
And
good
and and we have
businessman.
testimony and evidence in
Yeah,
court, they brought the receipts, that Trump actually paid his attorney, Michael Cohen,
yeah,
a lot more than he was supposed to pay him.
right. So there's
So,
that,
yeah,
yeah. So it's just kind of interesting. People don't have the whole story typically
yeah,
when they hear about things like this, and this is one of the things that I know about him, I've just seen is that pretty much anybody that opposes him either doesn't understand him or doesn't have the whole story. And a lot of the Trump derangement syndrome people fall into that category because they just
yep,
believe whatever the media tells them. And
yeah,
so it is interesting. I it's time for a little break and we're gonna come back and we're gonna spend about another 30 minutes here. We're gonna have a little bit shorter show today, but before we go, there's a couple things I want to let my audience know about, and that is that tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, I have a show that I want everybody to come live for. I have a notable Hollywood actor who's going to be coming on the show, somebody that you all know and love. I'm going to just leave it there as a teaser. He is known for doing some pretty incredible work. He's still very active in the film industry, and he's one of us, Team Freedom. So that's all I'm gonna tell you, and you're gonna wanna be here at 1 PM Eastern. We're gonna be streaming on all of our channels. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you is that I get questions all the time from people who want to be activists and they want to take local action. They want to contact their representatives. They just don't know where to start, and sometimes it's even hard to find that information. Well, there is a platform about to launch, and I've been in some talks with people who are very close to General Flynn, General Douglas McGregor, sorry, Colonel McGregor, people who have been working really hard behind the scenes to put together a platform that is going to help you do just that. And I got a preview yesterday. It's called Republic, and it is going to launch within, I would say, the next month. So it's very exciting. It's going to be something that's accessible to everyone. It's going to enable you to become an activist right in your community, all the way out to the nationwide level. And I'm blown away by the power of what they've put together. Some very, very high level investors have spent a couple of years putting this together, and it's going to enable you to do things just from your phone or computer that you would have had to spend a lot of time just trying to figure out. And the best thing is it's going to be free from the censorship. So, for example, if you are staging a meetup in your area or you're doing some local activism and you want to get the word out, you're going to be able to use this platform to do that. And it's not going to be sandboxed and you're not going to be put in jail on a platform for talking about certain things that have flagged you. You're not going to get flagged. So just watch this space because we're going to have some interviews about that. You're going to get to see previews of how it's going to work. I'm super excited. And, I get pitched things all the time. and I've been pitched a lot of things, especially when it comes to apps and platforms, and this is the first one that I've seen where I feel like this is gonna be a game changer. It's very exciting, and, it's backed, like I said, by people who have been tirelessly promoting local action leading to national impact. So with that being said, I'm going to switch over here really quickly and let you hear a word from some of our affiliate partners, and then please remember that when you purchase from any of these links or from the links on my website, it helps to support this show and other shows like this. It helps me to be able to bring you this content. So please consider supporting these affiliates. And one that's not on the commercial is our friend Mike Lindell over at My Pillow. Uh, please go and use promo code Mary Grace when you buy from him. You're going to get all the best things. And if you're starting to think about buying for college, just go on the website and buy all the stuff you need to send your kids or grandkids to college. You don't have to go and fight in those big box stores on the opening weekend of college. Just get it all from mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. It's amazing, and the prices just can't be beat. So, without further ado, we're going to jump into this little ad. Stick around, refresh your beverage, stretch, go touch some grass, whatever you need to do, and then come back and watch the rest of the show. So, here we go. Listen, your health is your best investment. We have a country to save, and we need people who are in the best shape of their lives, physically, mentally, spiritually. Why not connect with a team who cares about you on every single level from the inside out? Official Synapse is that team. Officialsynapse.com. It's official, synapse.com. Tell them Mary Grace sent you, and they will treat you like family. If you're like most people, you really probably haven't thought about transferring your paper dollars into physical gold and silver. But I want to tell you a story. My friend Andrew Sorcini over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals, he recently went overseas and he wanted to buy a watch. He likes fine watches. He took 3 currencies with him. He took gold, he took Bitcoin, and he took American dollars. Now, there used to be a time when the American dollar was king. I remember that when I used to travel overseas. Everybody wanted dollars. The people that he was dealing with would not take his dollars because the dollar is so devalued around the world. They wanted the gold. So this is what I recommend to you. I want you to think about this. If you have cash in the bank, if you have an investment account that you have worked hard for years to accumulate, consider the value of converting that money into physical gold and silver. You're not buying something that's losing value. You're changing those worthless dollars into a tangible physical asset that will go up in value, which it has done historically. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to bh-pm.com. The first thing you're going to do is schedule that free consultation. Second thing, just think rationally about this, pray about it, go to the Lord, see what the best decision for you and your family is. I can't tell you that. I don't want to pressure you into that. What I do know is don't be scared, be prepared. And so the third thing you want to do is make a decision for you and your family. Make a decision, take action. bh-pm.com. Let them know Mary Grace sent you. When it comes to food, we really want to be aware of what is in the food that we're consuming. And that includes different types of technologies, jibber jabbers, technology that can alter your genetic makeup. And this is why we want to focus on American grown beef that isn't injected with things that you wouldn't put into your own body. We really don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We saw 4 years ago what happened when the whole country shut down and people couldn't even go to the grocery store. We saw what happened when meat and other foods were rationed, and that could happen any day. We want you to be prepared. We want you to take action. And one of the best ways to do that is to secure food for yourself and your family. What better way than to go to griddownchowdown.com, use promo code Mary Grace, get a sustainable, reliable, shelf-stable source of high-quality American beef. All you do is go to griddownchowdown.com, tell them Mary Grace sent you, put your order in the basket and check out, and you're good to go. The other thing you can do is you can get a subscription If you do a subscription, you're going to get this freeze-dried beef delivered to your door every month. And you're going to save a little bit while you do that. You're going to stockpile it, or you can just cook with it. Some people are just using it for their regular cooking. It's really up to you, but it's super convenient because it's freeze-dried and it's shelf-stable for 12, 15 years or more. Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code MaryGrace. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who watches this show. Thank you for being a participant. Thank you for being a loyal audience member. I just want to remind you, if you like what you've seen, please share this and don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and also sign up for my email list so you never miss a show. We're back. Okay, great. Here we are. We've got about 30 minutes remaining, and there's a lot to talk about, but don't fear because Dave and I will come back and do another show. Um, it's just
That'll be episode 17.
episode 17, and it's
Confirmed.
it's 17. Well, that might have some meaning to it. Um, we may have to do another Q show. Okay, so let's. Where do you want to go now? Do you want to keep talking about some of the policies? It's really, I think it's fun to talk about Trump and all of the cases, and I think the way
Let's
that
shift
things are going to
gears.
go.
Yeah, let's shift to another
Okay,
topic.
go for it. Where do you want to go?
All
I
right.
don't want to talk about ham radios, though. I'm just being
No,
honest.
no, 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 no. I just want to put out a little reminder,
Okay,
and this is an invitation to prayer. Number one,
good.
it's also I'm very concerned about what's happening on the geopolitical stage with respect to I guess I would call it rumors of war. It looks like Israel is going to take the hammer to Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is primarily operating in Lebanon right now.
Mhm.
And there's been border skirmishes going on, northern Israel, southern Lebanon, between the IDF and Hezbollah for about a couple of weeks. And all of the signals that I'm seeing point toward a wider war between Hezbollah and Israel. So the Canadian Foreign Ministry, essentially their State Department, is preparing to making plans to evacuate all 45,000 Canadian citizens in Lebanon.
That's crazy.
Because it's looking like Lebanon is going to be going to war. Let's see. Qatar, Qatar, however you want to pronounce that country. The Qatari, it's funny because people say Qatar, but if you talk about the people, they're Qataris. I don't know.
Qataris.
Qataris. Their State Department has issued a warning to all Qataris not to travel to Lebanon and get the hell out as soon as possible. So there's a lot of countries that are now putting up travel advisories. Don't travel to Lebanon, and if you're there, get out. The problem with that is Hezbollah, like Hamas, is a branch of it's a paramilitary organization that is under the control of Iran, and
Right.
and the mullahs in Iran. So looks like we're going to be getting into another proxy war, not us, but yes, us, because the United States is an ally of Israel. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you view this whole thing. It seems very likely that could lead to an all-out war between Israel and Iran. That's concerning because Iran has been ramping up their uranium production. They're very, very quickly approaching the point where if they have not already enriched enough uranium to make a dozen or two nuclear bombs, they're going to be at that capacity in a couple of weeks. And the nuclear watchdogs out there, the International Atomic Energy Agency, they've been sounding the alarm of concern that it looks like Iran has achieved or is going to very soon achieve completion of a nuclear bomb or two or 10 or 25. That the amount of uranium they're enriching would give them the ability to put together a couple of dozen nuclear bombs
Okay.
in a short order in less than, let's say, less than 2 or 3 months. So that's a big problem. And the picture is further clouded by the fact that the White House is not, strictly speaking, under the control of the Biden crime family. There are at least
Shocker.
there are at least two factions that
Yeah.
are calling the shots in the White House. The Biden crime family gets to call the shots on some issues, mostly domestic, but the Obama, John Kerry, Valerie Jarrett faction, they're the ones calling the shots on most of the things involved in the Middle East. And so there's this little thing going back and forth between Anthony Blinken at the State Department and Israel, where the Biden administration has been withholding military aid to Israel, has been wishy-washy, waffling on whether they support Israel or not on their war against Hamas and other regional aggressors. And I'm I don't think that Israel should fully expect Valerie Jarrett and Obama to support them in their battle against Iran and Hezbollah. And it's interesting because I had a dream about a week ago, and I posted it on social media. In the dream, I saw that there was an entity. It was an intelligent entity, but it was also a weapon, and it had been sort of like dormant for a long time, but it had recently awakened. And this entity slash weapon had the ability to wipe out Israel's enemies. And I saw this as there was a crack, a long vertical crack in a wall,
Mhm.
and this entity was located in this wall. And it would shoot
Wow.
out bright light, like flashes of lightning or something coming out of it,
Mhm.
to get rid of Israel's enemies. And that's basically the dream. So it's something I hadn't thought about in a long time, but I suspect that that dream may suggest that God is supernaturally protecting Israel, even if NATO and the U.S. and other countries bail on Israel. I think that any country that comes against Israel is going to have a lot of difficulty. Um,
Interesting.
so that's going on.
Yeah.
Putin has been, so Russia sent the ships down to Cuba. There were military drills between the Egyptian Navy and the Russian Navy last week. Putin visited North Korea, signed a contract with Kim. Hey, if anybody attacks you or attacks me, we're all in together as an axis of power. Um, Kim Jong Un, sorry, Xi in China, and Putin have been collaborating on their mutual interests. And I think that there are sides being formed. I think Putin understands that he's probably going to be in a wider global war against the United States and NATO, and he is putting together his allies. He's making friends, figuring out who he can count on if the shooting starts between Russia and NATO. And I think that Putin has continually offered peace agreements in Ukraine with the existing borders as they are. NATO has continually, and Ukraine has said, no, not interested. Let's
I
just
have
keep
a question about, that because,
it.
when Trump was in office, it was we saw some strong indications that he was working with Putin, with Xi,
Right,
with,
right.
Kim Jong Un, and so do you how do you th how would the outcomes and actions be different even on January 21st of 2025, if we can hold out that long. So as a point of
They'll be
prayer,
very different. They'll
right?
be very different
Yeah,
Be-
so let's
because
talk about that.
yeah, um, there's a faction within the MAGA, the America First movement, that they're of the opinion that Trump is literally still in control, still calling the shots, still working with Putin, still working with Xi, that all of this rhetoric about war and all this stuff is all theater, that there isn't any actual threat of war, that because Trump is secretly in control and the White Hats are in control and they're working with Putin and Xi, none of this stuff is real. It's all fake. It's all theater, right? Kayfabe. I do not adhere to that belief system. Uh, when Biden was inaugurated, um, it's my belief that the 16-year plan to destroy America was put back on the front burner. And Biden has been moving things closer. And Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice and Kerry and all the other people,
Mhm.
they've been moving forward that plan to destroy America for the last 3.5 years since Biden was inaugurated. Trump is not in control right now. The people that are leaders, Kim Jong Un, Putin, and Xi, who respected Trump because he was strong, and therefore they didn't take any actions against Taiwan, against Ukraine, and against South Korea, because they knew they would get their asses handed to them if they did during
Right.
the Trump administration, are now all taking advantage of Biden's weakness so they can get what they want. She wants Taiwan, Putin wants Ukraine, Kim Jong Un has his own agenda, and so I think that I'm concerned that they're going to try to get as much as they can of what they want before Trump comes back into office in January, because they know that when Trump comes back in January, it's going to be a different
Yeah.
set of rules and they're not going to be able to do that stuff.
Okay. Time.
So I think things would be very different if Trump was in office. And I think things will be very different if he gets reelected. We have to pray and hope that for the next 6 months, we do not end up starting World War III. And so, like I said, call to prayer.
Mhm.
We need to really be in prayer. I think there's a chance to avert World War III, but there is danger everywhere right now because
Do you
we have
think
irresponsible, evil
yeah.
people in charge.
Do you think that's one of the ways that they would attempt to cancel the
Yes,
election? Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I think I would absolutely expect that um, the powers that should not be in Washington would absolutely love
mhm,
to light off a war in September or October, national emergency, cancel the election.
mhm. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna get away with another health scare. I think they've tested the waters on that. I also think that the pro-Palestinian, so-called organically led marches around the college campuses. I think those have been nipped in the bud when the frat boys started laughing at them. I think,
For now,
yeah, I mean, it may pop back up, but I just,
Soros has a lot of money.
yeah, yeah, he does. So it's interesting. I want to talk about the prayer element, and it's in your dream was really interesting because I was just telling somebody the other day when it comes to praying and achieving victory with the Lord, he almost never does anything in the conventional way that we would think of, and his weapons of war and his methods of war sometimes look actually pretty ridiculous, and if you look at history, I mean, you're talking about, like, this light, this being, and people are like, "Okay, right, yeah, what is he drinking over there?" But the thing is, if you look at history, if you look at biblical history, it's true that God uses, the weak things of the world to shame the wise, and he uses things that strategies that seasoned warriors would never think of. And for example, if you look at Gideon and his army in the book of Judges, you will see that God used a remnant of men. He sent the ones who were scared away. And so they were down to 300, but and that's not a great battle strategy unless you're dealing with highly elite trained special forces, which Gideon and his men weren't. Gideon was hiding when the angel of the Lord came. He wasn't a
Oh,
special
mighty
forces.
man of valor,
Yeah,
hiding here.
he was hiding in a wine press. So
Yeah.
that's not who we were dealing with there.
No.
And then God sent them out and he told them to carry lamps and to put a torch inside of the lamp and to carry a trumpet. And those were their weapons of war. And anybody who understands and has spent any time learning about battle strategy, anybody would think, okay, that's dumb. That's really not good strategy to use unseasoned men and give them a jar and a torch and a trumpet and then tell them to shout and blow a trumpet. And yet God defeated the Midianites who had been really oppressing Israel up until that point. And there's stories like that all through the Bible. And this is how God wants to show up. And so I
There's a particularly, I think, important illustration, real quick, if I
yes,
may.
please.
There's the account of the Assyrian army getting wiped out, 187,000 soldiers getting killed in one day by the angel of the Lord. Right? If I'm if my geography is correct, Assyria was a forerunner of Persia, which is a forerunner of Iran.
Mhm.
So if I was in the Iranian army, I would start reading the Bible and figure out whose side is God on in this battle, because I don't think it's going to go well for Iran if they go to war against Israel.
And the thing about the Assyrians too is they were brutal. I mean, they made ISIS look like the JV team.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
the Taliban has been meeting with some of the heads in Iran, and the Taliban has said, we'll send thousands and thousands of soldiers to fight Israel with you because we hate them as much as you do.
Oh,
So all of the terror organizations are now getting together to dogpile Israel, looks like.
interesting. And well, we'll see what happens, but I really do want to encourage people to pray and pray God's word over this and understand your history and the way that God has done things. I think that I want to encourage people to go to your Telegram channel because not everybody has the faith to believe and to understand what God can do. Your Telegram channel is so encouraging and it gives people testimonies every single day of things that God is doing in people's lives, in their businesses, in their everyday activities. And I think that it just really helps because uh, looking at stories like that, reading stories about God's faithfulness is what helps to build and grow your faith. So maybe you're thinking, I don't have faith for this. Well, faith is like a muscle and you build it. And one of the ways you build it is by just reading and uh, looking at testimonies of what God has done. Where is that story about the Assyrians? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. I wouldn't know.
Okay. Um,
But if you just do a internet search for the angel of the Lord killed the Assyrian army in one day, you could come up with it pretty easily.
okay. Okay. Um, One little note of housekeeping as we're closing out the show. As always, I want to remind people that uh, Dave doesn't direct message people on social media, especially asking for contributions or promoting crypto or Nasera Jacera. I don't do that either. And when you are on these platforms, please be careful about um, different fake accounts. There's a lot of fake accounts on Rumble, and they have names that look really close to my name on Rumble, but they're not verified. My account has a verified badge, and I think yours does too, Dave. So just take a second to, notice who's actually posting or writing to you, because we don't want you to get scammed, and we're not going to send you links to things like that. So just be aware of that. Anything else that people need to know? I mean, they can contact you through your website, right?
Yep, you can contact me through my website, prayingmedic.com. The other website is prayingmedic.org. That is our nonprofit ministry. If our information, content, and our activities have blessed you, you can support our ministry through prayingmedic.org and our Give Send Go page, which is givesendgo.com/PM. And we appreciate your financial support.
And you can also buy Dave's books. You can get them through his website. You can
That
get
is
them
a great way to support us. We love that.
wherever books are sold. I'm gonna put up
Yes.
the Power and Authority Made Simple link because I think this is a book that helps people to learn how to pray with power and authority.
And if you want a little information on Power and Authority, in July, I'll be doing an Elijah Streams
Oh, okay.
edition with Power and
Okay.
Authority.
Okay, perfect. And we have talked about it here on the channel as
Yeah.
well. But there's a link to that. So you can just go directly, or you can go to Dave's website, prayingmedic.com. And Dave has a ton of content on his websites, videos that he's made on all kinds of topics. You also do a Supernatural Saturdays teaching for people, right?
I do.
Do you have one coming up in July?
I do. It'll be the second Saturday. Yeah, Supernatural Saturdays are the second Saturday of every month.
Okay.
I do the live stream on Telegram because, well, that's just where we landed after the ban hammer took us off of Twitter and everywhere else. Um, but then the replay is posted on Rumble, on my websites, on my podcast, and other places. And if you want to jump on, lately I've been doing a lot of question and answer, where people in the live stream just come in, they get on speaker, and they ask a question or they share a testimony, and it's been very encouraging and enlightening. So
Exciting.
if you join my Telegram channel, you can get in on the live stream and you might be able to. I try to call on everybody who raises their hand with a question. So
That's good. Good.
there you go.
And thank you for doing that. Telegram isn't my jam, but but it's yours, and you've really made it work. So that's just it's awesome. And as always, guys, make sure that you are following us on multiple platforms, especially on X, because that seems to be the least likely at this point. X and Rumble. And then Dave on Telegram. So that seems to be the least likely point of contention. If you're on my other platforms, just be aware that they may not always be there and we may not
True.
always be on them, and just please keep us in prayer because it really makes a difference when you pray for me, when you pray for Dave and his family, and for me and my family, because what we do is not easy, and it sometimes comes with more challenges than you might have just if we just chose not to do this. And so we really do feel your prayers and we appreciate them. And so I thank you for that, especially, for my dad and everything that we have going on here at the house and for my air conditioner. uh, so I think that's it for today. And we will come back and just again I want to remind you, set your reminders for tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. We have a fantastic interview lined up and you're not going to want to miss it. It's always fun to watch the live. If you can't, I understand, but we really do love having our live audience and we want you to be here to participate with that. So, with that being said, everybody have a wonderful day and hope that you guys stay cool if you're in a hot place. And just, remember just prayer matters and understanding history and understanding who God is and how he does things can really help you in this time as you're dealing with so much that is unknown. Any last words, Dave?
Keep President Trump in prayer.
Yes.
Keep Mary and I in prayer. And find out from the Lord what He wants you to pray and decree and declare regarding world peace. This is a time to be fighting the kingdom of darkness, battling against the enemy's agenda of war. I think we can avert this if we just keep praying like crazy and storming the heavens.
Perfect. Have a great day, everybody.